Testing, testing. car on Route 95, car blocking the garage downstairs. Things can only get better from here.
Elevator out of order.
And the elevator was out of order, but that's a common occurrence, though. Okay, so let's begin. We'll begin with the minutes from the prior meeting. All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it. Plug the laptop in. Let's now go to the consent items on the agenda. So, item number, we're going to take all of these together, but I'm going to read the motions first. So, again, walking up those steps can kind of put you out of breath. Okay. Item number 1, Premier Energy Advisors, LLC. It's an application for a license to supply natural gas and natural gas supply services in Maryland. The motion is to grant the company a license to operate as a natural gas supplier in Maryland, limited to broker services for the customer classes and service territories applied for and recommended by staff. Also, to direct the company to provide training materials specific to its Maryland operations to the Commission's staff 30 days prior to utilization of the materials in Maryland, and to direct the company to notify the Commission within 30 days of any changes to the information in the application. Second item, also Premier Energy Advisors, LLC. The motion is to grant the company a license to operate as an electricity supplier in Maryland, limited to broker services for the customer classes and service territories applied for and recommended by staff, to direct the company to provide marketing and training materials specific to its Maryland operations to the Commission staff 30 days prior to utilization of materials in Maryland, and to direct the company to notify the Commission within 30 days of any changes to the information in the application. And finally, item number 3, Rescom Energy LLC, doing business as NextVolt Energy. It's a notification of reorganization, and the motion is to take note of the filing. Okay. All 3 items. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it. The motions are carried unanimously. So next we're going to, well, I'll gavel us adjourned on that point, but next let's go into our topic having to do with the Baltimore Gas and Electric. So who do we have from staff to talk to us on this? And of course, for the record, please identify yourselves.
I don't know if she's going to be the lead speaker.
There we go.
People's Council staff.
Who'd like to go first? Okay. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Barbe. Good morning to you and the commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to comment on this important issue. My name is Richard Gratz, and I'm an assistant staff counsel. With me today is Drew McCullough, director of the Electricity Division. We have some outbound remarks which are tailored to the Commission's follow-up notice to appear regarding several critical components necessary for the Commission to evaluate BGE's cap potential for success, as well as some additional comments. And then afterwards, we'll be available for questions.
Okay.
Good,
Go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Barve. Isaac Lindenbaum on behalf of the Maryland Office of People's Counsel. We're here to answer any questions the Commission may have for us.
All right. The company.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Joel Michelle on behalf of BGE. With me is Stephen Singh, our VP of Customer Operations. We also have a few additional staff with us should the Commission have questions, particularly for them to answer. We do have some outbound remarks, particularly addressing the 4 matters that the Commission identified in its notice to appear. And then Mr. Singh is prepared to provide the Commission with a status update and progress report which I'm sure the commission would like to hear. And
Okay, who would like to proceed?
I can.
You
I can
want,
start.
okay, all right.
So the January 28th notice to appear from the commission identified 3 components that the commission felt was lacking in BGE's January 20th corrective action plan. And so I'll address those 3 components in turn. First, the commission's notice to appear indicated that BGE's CAP lacked baseline values. Second, quantitative target values, and then evaluation criteria. In short, the company didn't include those specific components in its CAP because the commission's regulations actually already contain both quantitative target values and evaluation criteria for BG's performance, and the commission already has baseline values. So just taking a step back for a second, in case number 9353, all Maryland utilities already submit annual reports of their call center performance. And particularly COMAR section 2050-12-8 identifies what we consider to be the quantitative targets and evaluation criteria for all Maryland utilities with respect to its call centers or their call centers. The particular quantitative targets and evaluation criteria identified in that section of COMAR are call answer time, which measures, which requires utilities to answer 75% of customer service and outage calls within 30 seconds or less on an annual basis. And the second metric or criteria is abandoned calls, which requires utilities' annual average abandoned call rate to be less than 5%, again, on an annual basis. So with respect to, evaluation criteria for this proceeding, we believe that those criteria and metrics that are contained in the commission's regulations are the appropriate ones. Any other evaluation criteria or metric would essentially be arbitrary and would essentially hold BGE to a different standard than any other Maryland utility. If the commission decided that it wants the company to offer additional targets, I believe we can do that. But again, we don't see the value in that because it would be targets that only apply to BGE and not the other Maryland utilities. We think that if the commission determines that the criteria already identified in the commission's regulations aren't sufficient, the appropriate step to take would be to revise those standards to meet the commission's expectation and hold all Maryland utilities to that same standard. With respect to the evaluation criteria, the commission stated that the CAP that BGE submitted did not provide clear criteria for determining when the CAP has been successfully implemented and the deficiencies resolved. The company's position on that is that once the company is at the 2 standards that I indicated are in the commission's regulations, the call answer time and the abandoned calls, once we reach the appropriate levels that are identified in the commission's regulations, the commission will then know that the CAP has been successfully implemented. Until that happens, the commission can, require the status updates, the reporting of the metrics, so on and so forth, until we reach the appropriate standards. And then lastly, the commission's notice indicated that it was concerned that the reporting cadence was insufficient for the commission to track the company's progress. And the company suggested quarterly reporting. Again, that's actually taken from the commission's own regulations with respect to the call center metrics that I identified in COMAR 2050-12-8. Those metrics are required to be reported annually. The commission's regulations provide that if the commission deems necessary, it can require utilities to report those metrics on a quarterly basis. And there's actually some precedent that's relevant here. In 2016, Pepco had similar issues with its call center, and the commission had actually ordered Pepco not to report quarterly, to simply make an additional or interim annual report. So in essence, it was biannual reporting until Pepco resolved that issue. And again, that was in case number 9353. And the only metrics that Pepco was required to report in its CAP and interim filings were the metrics that are actually contained in the commission's regulations. Here, and we'll have more discussion about this later, I'm sure staff and OPC will comment on this, BGE has agreed to do additional reporting of metrics. So in addition to the metrics that the commission has in its regulations, BGE has agreed to report all of the metrics that staff, OPC, and the CAD suggested. And with that, we think that is sufficient. So you'll have not only the metrics that all utilities are held to in Maryland, you'll have these additional metrics that BGE has agreed to report. And before I turn it over to Mr. Singh, the company does have one request to make of the commission, and essentially it's for administrative efficiency. Yesterday we received a data request from staff that consisted of 10 pages and 185 separate data requests. And I mean, I'll just mention some of the more interesting requests of the 185. One request that BGE provide the compensation for Mr. Stephen Singh on an annual basis since he has been employed by BGE. Another asks, does BGE recognize the importance of accessible, responsive customer service? Does BGE admit that the current call conditions in BGE's customer service center are in violation of COMAR, and so on and so forth? The company's position on these data requests is that they are, one, irrelevant, and two, it's the commission's job to regulate BGE and other Maryland utilities. Requiring the company to answer just the questions, the last few questions that I just read off. You know, does BGE acknowledge that its call center performance is not acceptable? It's a waste of time, frankly. I mean, in our first appearance here, we acknowledged.
Do you think it's not acceptable?
And I was going to say, Chair, that in our first hearing before this commission, we took ownership and we said to the commission, we have a record of it, we said that the performance of our call center is unacceptable to the company, first and foremost. And we took ownership. We also indicated the steps that we had already begun taking at the time of the hearing. The commission made suggestions in terms of additional steps, and you'll hear from Mr. Singh about the steps that we have taken and the progress that has resulted from that. But the company is simply asking that the employees who are responsible for managing and operating the call center be allowed to do their job, which is that. These employees already have a lot on their plate, and to have 185 questions for these same employees to have to take the time to respond to that are really, many of them irrelevant, and will not go to actually resolving the issue that we're trying to resolve. And that's the question for the commission. Would you rather have these employees focus on fixing the problem or answering questions like this? And so the ask that the company has of the commission is that the commission suspend discovery in this proceeding, because one, discovery in this proceeding isn't needed. So that, as I mentioned, the information that is relevant to this issue are the metrics that staff, OPC, and the CAD had recommended. That's the information, right, that is most relevant to resolving this issue. And we have agreed, and before the commission today, we reaffirm that we are willing to report all of the metrics that have been suggested by CAD, OPC, and staff. Given that, we see no need for additional discovery. If the commission, after reviewing our reports, determines that they have additional questions or there is additional measures that the company needs to take, the commission can order us to do so. But in the meantime, we respectfully request that the commission suspend all discovery in this proceeding. Again, there is already a separate case number 9353, that deals with these very same metrics and customer call center metrics. And the precedent here is that, in 2016, when Pepco dealt with the same issue, there wasn't a separate proceeding established. There wasn't discovery open to address that issue. The commission, in accordance with its regulations, provided that Pepco submit a cap in that proceeding and an interim report, and that was the end of it. And we're just asking for some consistency here and some administrative efficiency.
All right, before we hear from Mr. Singh, I have a few comments I'd like to make. I'm a little shocked by elements of what you have had to say. To begin with, the failure of BG&E in this instance is unique and disturbing. It is. I wasn't here for the Pepco failure, so I don't know how they compare. And frankly, I'm really not that concerned about that. Second thing I'd like to say is, as to the discovery and the characterization of some of these questions as being irrelevant, really that's a judgment call for the commission, not for the regulated utility. Maybe that's so, and perhaps after reading the answers that you give, we may agree with you. But until that happens, I think BG&E is going to have to answer those questions and complete all the tasks in your corrective action plan simultaneously. Unfortunately, sometimes in stressful situations, we have to be able to chew gum and walk at the same time, and unfortunately, that's the situation we are collectively in right now. I was going to give a speech prior to this, and then I decided not to because I frankly didn't think that any of these statements were at all in question. We are confronted, and by we, I mean the commission, the utility, the people of the Baltimore region. We are confronted with a gigantic problem that has to be solved in as fast a manner as possible. And I think, you know what, we have all been in that place where we have screwed up and we've had to fix our screw up and at the same time answer questions to the people who are wanting to make sure that we fix these screw ups. We've all been there. Unfortunately, right now it's your turn. So here's how I'd like to proceed with the rest of this hearing. I would like to hear from Mr. Singh and the People's Council and staff, and then we will take questions for all of you simultaneously, because what I've found is in situations such as these, it's often the case that you might want to ask a question to a different person based on what you had heard from, a different person. So, Mr. Singh, you have the floor.
Chair Barber, just before Mr. Singh proceeds, just a point of clarification. You mentioned that it's up to the commission to determine whether the 185 questions we received yesterday are relevant. And I just want to get clarity in terms of the expected procedural steps that the commission has in mind. Ordinarily, once we receive these discovery requests, the company has the obligation to respond either with an objection on stating the ground for the objection, in which case we would not answer. The entity propounding the discovery would then either decide whether they agree with our objection or
Well, get through as many questions as you can.
yeah, I understand that, Chair. I'm just trying to understand whether or not the commission is envisioning that we maintain the current established process for discovery. Because I imagine that this issue is going to.
Yeah,
Okay. That's what,
Yeah,
just
of course.
wanted to get that clarity.
right. Mr. Singh, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you for having me this morning. I wanted to provide an update on our progress since our last meeting and actions we're going to be taking going forward. So since December 17th, the session in which we met, BGE has made significant progress in improving customer access, reducing wait times, meeting commitments, strengthening collaboration with regulatory partners. While encouraged by the results to date, we recognize that sustained improvement requires continued focus on staffing and technology. So I want to highlight some of the progress that we've made to date. So improving access for customers. So we have streamlined our offerings by now providing two clear options for customers willing to contact us. They can now wait in queue or schedule a callback. These changes and this streamlining has improved availability and created a more predictable experience for our customers. Under the category of reducing wait times, average wait times since we last met have improved from 150 minutes to 32 minutes, which represents a 79% reduction. Delivering on our commitments. Customer appointments, in terms of when we schedule a callback, we measure that by punctuality. When we met on December 17th, our punctuality or commitment hitting was 21%. Today we're at 85%, which represents a 64% improvement. Also, I want to talk about the Commission's focus on strengthening collaboration with the PSC and others. We have conducted multiple sessions with both the PSC CAD division as well as the OPC. We provided full information and transparency, provided walking tours of our care center, reviewed corrective actions on our side, also on issues that they raised from their perspective, and made progress to enhance transparency and access for these critical stakeholders, giving them access to our systems in which they could prioritize issues that they're seeing directly to us, and we have solved those. So while we've made progress to date, we're still not there. How are we going to continue to do this, and what levers will we continue to focus on? One of the primary factors is staffing. Since we last met on December 17th, our staffing has increased from 184 to 209, which is a 14% improvement. We've also, in terms of availability, expanded access on Saturdays. We've increased overtime, and we've used internal non-traditional resources to help field in this activity. Staffing forecasts as I look forward. We will be at 229 by the end of February, which represents a 25% increase, and 249 by the end of March, which will represent a 35% increase. From a technology perspective, we're working closely with our vendors, and I've mentioned before, we've already seen a 64% improvement in our commitments from a punctuality perspective. And we're also enhancing self-service options to reduce call volume and improve customer experience. As we mentioned at our last session, I'll mention here today, BGE remains committed to transparency, regulatory partnership, and delivering sustained measurable improvements for our customers. We do believe that we have the path forward and the right tools in place to meet these commitments. Thank you.
Thank you. People's Council.
Good morning, Chair Barve. I'd just like to note everything that Mr. Singh just said is the first time OPC is hearing of this. I think it's also the first time staff is hearing of this. And that information was exactly the type of information that should have been included in the corrective action plan that was submitted and filed with the Commission. So that's an initial point. I also just wanted to to point out one of the statements from BGE's representative that it posed the question of, do we want to focus on solving the problem, or do we want to focus on responding to requests for information from staff and OPC and other parties? And I think that encapsulates the problem of how we've gotten to this point, because part of solving this problem is being transparent. It means providing information, and it means providing that information in a way that BGE can be held accountable, and that's ultimately what they want to avoid here. I think BGE provided many statements throughout its initial reply that are either imprecise or not accurate, and I'll just flag a couple of those now for the commission and for the record. First, COMAR doesn't require BGE report all the metrics that OPC, CAD, and staff has proposed. Second, COMAR also doesn't provide standards for all the metrics that OPC and staff have proposed. And additionally, I also wanted to note that BGE did not, in fact, propose to report all of the metrics that staff, OPC, and CAD had proposed, and they excluded a variety of metrics, which I'm sure staff also will note. And finally, I just wanted to say that we object to the request to pause all discovery in this proceeding. Providing discovery, again, is important and critical for transparency and solving the problem as it exists currently today. And with that, I'll pass it to staff.
All right, staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whereas BG&E stated in their refiled cap that BG&E also agreed to report additional metrics proposed by the Office of People's Counsel and the Commission's technical staff, to be clear, there is so far no agreement between staff, CAD, OPC, and BG&E on the proposed call center performance metrics. BG&E filing includes some, but not all, of the call center performance metrics proposed by staff, OPC, and CAD. The joint filing by staff, CAD, and OPC on February the 2nd is for the record to accurately reflect what occurred and includes recommendations. There are several inconsistencies between the metrics included in BG&E's cap and the proposed metrics provided by staff, OPC, and CAD. BG&E also modified the description of several metrics proposed by staff and OPC. For example, staff and OPC proposed descriptions of call center performance metrics which mirror the definitions in COMAR 20.50.12.08, including average speed of answer and average handle time. Notably, BG&E did not include these descriptions in the metrics proposed in BG&E's refiled cap, even though they were included in the metrics proposed by staff, OPC, and CAD. Additionally, there are other metrics that staff and OPC proposed that BG&E did not include in their cap, such as the number of calls where customers are offered only the callback feature and the percentage of calls where customers are only offered the callback feature. In addition, BG&E has indicated that it uses other metrics to monitor call center performance. Staff and OPC appreciate that BG&E did include some of the metrics proposed by staff and OPC in the refiled cap. For example, BG&E included the following metric for first call resolution, which mirrors the definition in COMAR 20.50.12.08D3. All we're asking for here is that the Commission order BG&E to share those metrics that they purportedly have been tracking with the parties, with the Commission, and report on them monthly, and that the Commission hold BG&E accountable. In conclusion, staff, CAD, and OPC respectfully request that 1, the Commission order BG&E to include baseline values from at least the past 3 calendar years to allow a comparison of the company's current performance against historical data. 2, order BG&E to adopt the call center performance metrics jointly filed by staff, CAD, and OPC, as opposed to the call center performance metrics proposed by BG&E in its refiled cap, and hold BG&E accountable to industry standards, including those referenced in COMAR 20.50.1208A and COMAR 20.50.1208B. 3, order BG&E to provide further information to determine the sufficiency of BG&E's cap. 4, order BG&E to report the call center performance the call center performance metrics jointly filed by Staff, CAD, and OPC monthly and quarterly. And 5, place BG&E on notice that it may impose civil penalties on BG&E pursuant to its authority under Public Utilities Article 13-201 and 13-205 if BG&E does not achieve industry standards for call center performance. Additionally, I want to address some of the comments that were just made by BG&E at the table here today. And first and foremost, the reason that we're here today is because, as Mr. Chairman, you mentioned, BG&E has serious challenges, and that's why it's appropriate to hold them to this higher standard. Specifically, some of the comments that BG&E made about collaborating with collaborating with staff and OPC and with CAD are just erroneous. As I indicated, we attempted to collaborate with BG&E. We offered BG&E the opportunity to meet with them in person. We sent our metrics, our proposed metrics, to BG&E as we stated in our filing, and BG&E chose not to respond to our proposal. Instead, BG&E filed their cap without consulting with staff, OPC, or CAD. Secondly, I want to just address the issue in terms of the data requests. BG&E stated that they have a choice of either fixing the problem or answering the question. Candidly, we do not believe it's an either or. We believe it's a yes and. BG&E needs to fix the problem and respond to the data request. So we object to BG&E's request to suspend discovery. As I mentioned previously, just to clarify the record, when BG&E stated that they agreed to report the additional metrics, that's just patently false. They did not agree, as I mentioned earlier, to report on the additional metrics that we stated.
Yeah, and just to follow up on some of the points Mr. Gratz was making, staff has been, looking through some of the data, and just based on our calculation, for example, COMAR 2050-1208A, which requires BG to respond to all calls within 75% of calls within 30 seconds. Just based on the data we've looked at over the last 4 years, they have not met that standard, and frankly haven't been close. The highest was in 2023, where they averaged 63.3% of calls were answered in 30 seconds. And in 2025, that fell to 49%. So based on the data we have that CAD received, so we took the data that CAD received from BGE. BGE is already in violation of COMAR and has been for many years, which is why we bring up the ability to possibly bring up fines and punitive measures at that point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll proceed to questions. I will go Commissioner Linton, Suchman, Hoover, and McLean in that order. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, if we could, I'd like to hear a response from BGE, because our commission staff and OPC just made several statements that the company, quite frankly, needs to respond to.
I think that's fair. If you'd care to
Yeah,
respond.
no, absolutely. I was hoping for the opportunity. So I have before me a email dated January 23rd, and I'd be happy to file this with the commission for the record, where BGE agreed to report the metrics that staff and OPC propose. And in that communication, the email chain, staff had pointed out two particular metrics that BGE missed, including in the cap that it filed. And in that email, we specifically indicated that we would agree to report those two additional metrics. I also have and I can also file this with the commission. This is a spreadsheet, and it actually, I think it was put together by staff. And there's columns that designate all of the metrics that BG has agreed to, and where we made any modifications to language, we explained, in essence, that we have a automated process that tracks these metrics, and the language that is used in that automated process is what we propose. But in essence, the information that staff and OPC requested is the same that we agreed to report. So, one example is the proposed language that staff and OPC offered was average callback time. We have a metric that measures punctuality. It's essentially the same thing that staff and OPC, in terms of the information, it's the same information that staff and OPC has requested. In our system, it's designated as punctuality, but it's the same information. I can file that with the commission. So, with those two clarifications, again, I restate that the company has and remains committed to providing the metrics that OPC and staff has requested.
Commissioner Linton, is that sufficient?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did you have something additional to add? Or?
Yeah.
My colleague was just mentioning that, I think it was Mr. McCullough who mentioned that BGE has been out of compliance with the COMAR regulations for several years now.
Yeah.
That is inaccurate. Again, the company would ask the commission to look at case number 9353 that contains all of the annual filings from the company in terms of these COMAR required metrics. And in the 14 years since Maryland Utilities have had to report those metrics, I don't believe BGE has ever fallen short of that metric. I think there might be a misunderstanding of the metrics that COMAR requires and is reported annually in that case, 9353, versus the metric that Mr. McCullough just cited, which I believe comes from data that we recently provided to him.
So, if you would like me to go forward now, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. So just on that point, then, the data that our staff was referencing, I suspect it was monthly data.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, and the regulation that you're referencing provides an annual standard. So what the company's is stating is that the 75% standard has been met on an annual basis, even though it fluctuates over the course of a year. Is that?
That's incorrect.
That's
This is
not
annual
correct.
data
Okay.
that I'm citing.
Oh, you're citing annual data.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
The problem.
Based on the data BG sent the CAD, they have not hit that standard any 1 month, let alone over the last 4 years. Now,
Okay.
they may have inconsistencies in what data they're sending, but, that would be their concern, not ours.
Yeah, Commissioner Linton, what Mr. McCullough is citing is agent level data. That is different from the metrics that COMAR requires that we report on an annual basis. So we're comparing apples to oranges. So the statement that based on the 70% that Mr. McCullough just cited, the company has been out of compliance is just inaccurate. Again, there is a case number 9353, where the commission can simply look at the annual reports for the past 14 years that the company has made and confirm whether what the company is representing today is accurate or not. And I would imagine that had the company had been out of compliance, we would have heard from the commission about it.
Commissioner Linton, if I may, just for the record, I just want to clarify that our understanding of the data is the same as staff's, and that BGE was not in compliance in any 1 month, given any 1 year.
Commissioner Linton, may I just interject briefly here?
Sure.
The point just raised that we're comparing apples to oranges is precisely the point that we have raised in our comments and in our comments filed and in our comments here from the table. What we're trying to do is to be able to accurately measure BG&E's performance. What we've proposed was definitions of the metrics that mirror COMAR, so that there is one clear standard, that BG&E is held accountable to. by obfuscating the record here and by obfuscating the definition and description of the metrics, we're not able to come to a conclusion as to the efficiency of BG&E's performance in the call center. So that is precisely why we're asking for the commission to order BG&E to report on the metrics that's proposed by staff, by OPC, by CAD, which mirror the definitions in COMAR, and which also mirror industry metrics, industry best practice metrics, for example, for first call resolution. That is precisely what we're asking for today.
Any further response?
I don't want to belabor the point. I think at least 3 times now I have indicated that the company is willing to report the metrics that OPC staff and CAD have proposed. If the commission wants us to alter the term or the phrases used by the program we're using to track these metrics, I'm sure in our CAP filing we can just change the names of the category. If that's what the issue is now, we can do that.
Okay. Well, first off, I'd like to thank my colleagues for their indulgence. I encourage the chairman, and with his granting, allowed this conversation to go back and forth for a few moments, just so that the record could show that there's a lot of challenge here with trying to figure out what is actually successful and not successful. But what is not in dispute at this point is that when we first started this proceeding, there was problems that the company acknowledged it was having with responding to customers that were calling. And so the whole purpose of this proceeding, which is limited, and under a separate case number, is to make sure we find solutions to the problem in front of us right now. So while I appreciate references to our regulations, those obviously have relevance, as well as references to the other case. That too has relevance. But we're not going to find the solutions for this problem in those proceedings or cases. Because if that were true, then we wouldn't be here. We would have already had this, everything would be working smoothly as it is. So I wanted to turn back to your corrective action plan, the one that you filed. And you've already stated here today that that you're willing to provide all of the data that the People's Council and I don't want to reference them as the joint parties, but I guess I could call them that. The other joint parties have proposed. There are some in there that are not the same as what COMAR has requested and required from us in the past. So in the Commission's original notice convening this proceeding, one of the things that we mentioned is that there was not a baseline to compare where we are now, where we have what we have already acknowledged is a challenge, with where we will be, hopefully, in a short period of time. And we will be able to see that there's an improvement in measurement. So how does the company propose we figure that out?
So I think Commissioner Lynn, there are 2 options here. So in terms of the baseline for the metrics, the additional metrics, the non-COMAR metrics that we're agreeing to.
Let me just slow you down here now. I'm talking about identifying the moment we're in now. So some of the metrics, as we already discussed a few moments ago, are annual filings. So
No,
they're
okay.
dealing with data that goes back 12 months ago.
Yep.
Or 6 months ago, or some period of time. We know this problem has started over the course of sometime last year, but it came to a point where it needed to be very much so addressed by the Commission and all of us very recently.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to identify that moment and then find the moment when we're going to be successful.
Yep,
very soon.
absolutely. Yep, no, I understand.
Okay.
So in terms of baseline for the metrics that are not reported annually, the ones we're committing to reporting in this case, we can provide if the Commission wants the 2025, the entirety of 2025 data for those same metrics, we can provide that to address your issue with baselines for those metrics. And I think
Yes.
Mr. Singh also.
Yeah, and I appreciate the dialogue regarding the interpretations of the different metrics. As I'm running the call center, what I'm hearing loud and clear from our customers that we found was unacceptable on December 17th, and as I've reported our progress to date, and I think we could all resonate with this, is nobody wants to be on hold forever. They were on hold for 150 minutes on average. We got that down to 32 minutes, which is a 79% improvement, and we are working to continue to close that gap. I think all of us who deal with businesses understand that 150 minutes is unacceptable. I'm proud of the progress so far, and we can define metrics in different ways, but I know that's unacceptable, and I know that has to continue to come down. And as I mentioned, we have plans in order to do that. In addition, what we heard loud and clear from the commission, and yes, I've had personally been at 2 sessions with OPC, one for 90 minutes in January, another for 60 minutes in January, and with the CAD division talking about these issues. I was personally there 2 separate times. So that did happen. We are partnering with them. And one of the other issues we heard was our customers could not get access to us, meaning that when they tried to call into the call center, they were given prompts that did not allow them to connect. We have fixed that. That doesn't happen anymore. I mentioned in my opening comments some changes that we've made. Our customers, if they want to have access to us, now have access. That has been fixed. Yes, they are still waiting for 30 minutes, which is an improvement under 150 minutes, but we're going to continue to drive that down. And if they don't want to wait, we are scheduling callbacks. I know we can get lost in some of these definitions about punctuality and the like, but I think of that as a commitment. When we met with you last time, we were only meeting that commitment 21% of the time. We said we would call you back at 10 a.m. the next day, and we were missing it. Today, we're at 85% commitments. That's still not good enough. Yet with the changes and additional changes I've made about continuing to improve technology and with right-sizing our staffing, we'll be able to ensure our customers have access. We'll be able to ensure that customer wait times go down, and we'll be ensure that we can meet our commitments. When we tell them we're going to call them back, we're going to call them back. And from an FCR perspective, or resolving their issue, that is our focus too. Not only are they going to have reduced wait times, but when they do connect with us, we're going to fix their problem the first time. And that's how I'm managing the care center. That's how these people behind me are managing the care center. And we have committed to transparency. Again, I've personally been at both sessions, and we have other sessions scheduled. Another one just as soon as next week, in order to continue the dialogue to say, if we're missing something at BGE, please share it with us. And we have found some gaps in which we were missing some things in our process. And we gave extraordinary access to both the OPC and the CAD division to say, if you're seeing something we're not, please get it to us immediately. And they have been. And have they been getting us those issues? We've been fixing them. So we remain completely committed to transparency, completely committed to serving our customers. And while we can discuss these metrics in more detail, that's what our commitment to our customers.
Right, so I'm not going to belabor too much on the metrics piece, but I am going to point out another point here. Earlier in your statement, you mentioned that you got the call answer speed down from 150 minutes, which is, obviously not acceptable.
Yes.
I mean, that's a 2.5 hour wait, to 30 minutes, which is also not really acceptable. So the data that we have currently, which is annual, is it going to show that?
Yeah, it would. It
Well,
would, because
So you were at 150 minutes for the entire year, or on average for the entire year?
no. So let me make sure I understand which data you're referencing. When you say the data that we have now, are you talking about the annual reporting that's in the prior case?
Your annual reporting that you have made to this commission doesn't show that you had a 150-minute wait time.
No. So the two,
Right.
the two
that's-
metrics is what I referenced before. Correct.
Right, so that's my point. That's the reason why we're saying we needed a baseline. 'Cause
Well-
the baseline we have now is what your annual filings are, but it's not showing the challenged period, and it's not showing the success that comes after that.
No, understood. So, Commissioner Linton, the metric that Mr. Singh mentioned in terms of the wait time, it is factored into the annual reporting, and in terms of the metrics that we're committing to providing in this case, I agree with you, Commissioner Linton. We can provide baselines for those. In terms of my opening comments about the baselines that are in COMAR, it was specific to how the commission can hold us accountable, determine whether or not the cap has been successful. My point was that there are already standards in COMAR that all Maryland utilities are held to. But in terms of the additional metrics, if you want to get more granular in terms of looking at and tracking progress as to those metrics, we can provide the 2025 numbers. And as we continue our reporting in this case, you can track that progress against the 2025 numbers. I think the 2025 numbers would serve as your baseline.
I see Ms. Bolton is. Do you care to comment? Or
I did. I was hoping to comment on what Mr. Singh was saying about the collaboration that the Consumer Affairs Division and the Office of People's Counsel has had with Steve and his team over at the call center. I appreciate the meetings we have, but it's not a substitute for a thorough corrective action plan. And I have gotten a lot out of our meetings. I appreciate learning how things work, and I feel like I'm getting a little bit of whiplash from the openness that I experience when I come into BG&E and I'm talking with Mr. Singh and his team, and then on the other end, I'm getting emails like the referenced January 23rd email where counsel for BG&E is telling CAD and staff and the Office of People's Counsel things like the commission did not mandate that BG&E agree with staff and OPC's metrics. Things like the commission did not require BG&E to consult staff or OPC on the frequency of BG&E reporting these metrics. It doesn't signal agreement to me. It doesn't signal collaboration and the willingness to partner on fixing this issue. But when I do go and meet with Steve and the team, the openness is there, and I would love to see it on both ends.
I neglected to ask you to identify yourself for the record, so Stephanie, if you could do that.
Sorry, Stephanie Bolton, Director of the Consumer Affairs Division with the Maryland Public Service Commission.
Okay. Commissioner Linton, do you have anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Only thing I wanted to ask is regarding some implementation timelines that the company added and included in its corrective action plan. Several of these should have happened already, I guess, as of 2 days ago. So I'm just wanted to get an update on the status of them.
And if you could identify yourself, please, for the court reporter.
Yes, Taryn Mitchell, Senior Manager, BGE Call Center. And one of the things I believe you're speaking in reference to is us having the additional vendor staffing. They should be out of training, I believe, as of February 2nd. And they did get on the phones, and they're in production. So we do have those additional resources assisting with taking calls. Is there anything else in there you wanted to identify or speak to?
Well, you have 4 different items listed here. So you have internal supplemental staffing, contractual staffing.
Yes, so our supplemental staffing has been in place as well. They are helping us during our peak time between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. taking calls. There are 26 of the supplemental staff that are taking calls. There were 15 additional vendor resources that started taking calls as of February the 2nd. So we have met those timelines. The other, we're still in the process of the internal hires. We've completed the interviews. Those folks are going through background checks right now, and they are planning to start training on February 23rd.
Okay, and so we're expecting, according to your timeline, we're expecting that the second chance callback feature will be reestablished?
February 10th.
Okay, I'll see you moved it up.
Yes, that is still in play. It's already finished UAT testing successfully, and it's going to go into production on February the 10th. And just for the record, for folks to know, second chance callback means if a customer is on hold, let's say you were on hold for 15 minutes and you just are not able to take that, you can't hold any longer, you'll be given the option to schedule a callback instead of before you would have to continue to hold and not have a chance to change your mind from holding to actually accepting a callback.
Okay, thank you. Just one last comment, Mr. Chairman. For the company, you've acknowledged and are willing to provide data for a number of the metrics that both the parties have proposed. And I appreciate your position that you like us to collect that data from either the case or from other filings that have already been made. I would submit to you that that's probably not in your best interest. But if that's what you'd like us to do, then we will use that and compare it against filings that you will make. And I suspect that if you are looking to make quarterly filings, and this is my final question, when is the first filing under your cab, as you proposed it, that you would anticipate providing a filing of data to the commission?
So in terms of the first filing of metrics, I don't think we proposed a first date because we hadn't received a commission order in terms of approving our proposed cap and any of the metrics. But I would imagine that we'd be able to do that fairly shortly after receiving an order identifying which metrics the company needs to provide. And then Commissioner Linton, just to get some clarity in terms of your prior statement, you mentioned that your understanding was that the company was suggesting that the commission obtain the information as to these new metrics in a different case. And I don't, if that is what you took from my representation, that is not what I intended. My point was that in terms of the standards and the metrics that are contained in COMAR, we are already reporting those on an annual basis, and the commission has historical figures for those. In terms of these new metrics, we would be filing them, and in this case, on the frequency or cadence that the commission established. So there wouldn't be a need to go to a different case to get that data as to these new metrics.
And so, well, thank you for the clarification. And so, when would you make that first filing? After our order?
That's right.
Immediately after our order? Or shortly thereafter?
Shortly thereafter. You know,
Okay.
yeah, not
So
immediately.
you proposed quarterly, so your second filing would be 3 months later?
That's right. I mean, and to be clear, we can do monthly if the commission determines that that's what's best. We can do monthly reporting. We're tracking the information on a monthly basis anyway. So the only difference is how often are you guys getting a filing from us, but all the information will be the same.
Okay, well,
So we can do monthly. We suggested quarterly because that's what's in the commission's regulations. And frankly, I think that would be a more accurate representation. You'll see the ebbs and flows over a span of a quarter as opposed to just monthly tracking. I think that's probably part of the reason why the regulations, the standard has to be met on an annual basis because it takes into account the natural ebbs and flows.
right, I'm familiar with that part of it. But as I stated earlier, and I know I've said it a couple of times, this is my last question, but the main point we were trying to get to here, and that I was hoping I was making during the course of my questioning, is that because this is a unique moment, we want to make sure that we identify what the challenge is right now and see the progress to the conclusion of it. And obviously, I'm hoping that's not an annual issue, but it's actually resolved by the time you make your first quarterly filing, if not sooner. But I don't want to wait 3 months or 4 months, and I don't think your customers want to wait 3 or 4 months to see that this issue has been resolved. So that's the reasoning, not only for suggesting a monthly filing, but also for making sure we have a baseline to know where we are right now and where we eventually are going to be when there's success. So, and I will stop this time.
Yeah,
Well,
and
whatever
Commissioner Lin-
whatever that is,
Yeah.
we need to make sure, and I think it's in the company's interest to make sure that the commission has that information from your perspective.
Sure, and we can commit to providing that on a monthly basis. And as I suggested earlier, we can provide also the 2025 data to serve as a benchmark.
Okay,
Chair- Chair Barway, could I just respond very briefly to 2 points from BGE?
Very briefly, yes.
Okay, very briefly, BGE recommended using the 2025 metrics as a baseline to measure its performance. We believe that that's an insufficient baseline. 2025 is when BGE's call center performance metrics were at their worst, and so that would set the lowest bar possible. Second, BGE attributed the short-term decline over the past month in customer wait times to the actions it's taken, but that's not necessarily true. That those declines in wait times could be equally attributable to the termination moratorium that the commission directed BGE to take up. So those are my 2 brief
Okay.
clarifications.
Very good. So, Commissioner, if you will direct your questions to specific people, and if others want to comment, please make note of that to me, and I'll recognize you.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
exactly like that.
Okay. So BG submitted their corrective action plan. Staff, OPC, and CAD filed comments jointly. And in the comments, they expressed some concerns about the mischaracterization in what was agreed to in terms of reporting. And I can tell you that I have pretty good clarity in terms of what they're proposing. I have less clarity about what BGE's agreed to, and I can tell you that I became even less clear when you began your comments today talking about what is required under COMAR, what you do, and then also expressing concern about your having to comply with things that your fellow Exelon utilities don't have to comply with, not recognizing that you're here because you've had failures within your system. It felt a little tone deaf because you're here not because you're succeeding, but because you're failing. And you're failing not just the company, but you're failing your customers. That's a big problem. But I can't really tell from your responses to Commissioner Linton's questions and your statements what you're agreeing to. I mean, I know what staff and OPC are asking in terms of metrics. Are you agreeing to everything that they're proposing?
Commissioner Suchman, I think to make it easy, we can make a subsequent filing that clearly identifies what metrics a company is agreeing to.
No, I'm sorry. I mean, we've been doing this for a couple of months, and it's hard for me to understand that you don't know now what you're agreeing to and not agreeing to.
Well, I do know.
So
Mr. Suchman,
so I don't need another filing. I'm asking you right now to go through their list of metrics and tell us what you agree to and what you don't agree to, because I think they don't know,
So,
and I can tell you that I don't know.
And I can help with that.
Please.
If I may approach, this is my only copy, but I can allow you to review this handout that identifies what staff and OPC have recommended and what we agreed to provide.
Okay.
Any modifications.
Is this a handout that we can actually? I mean, that all 5 of us can look at?
I only have one. This is
Well, we
my
have
first-
copiers here, and we can make
Yep, we
copies.
can do that.
I think that can happen.
Right.
May I approach?
Yes. Well,
And can you make extra copies so that OPC and staff have access to it, so we can get clarity that that is actually something that they're proposing? Okay, so while he's making
why don't you
copies,
move on to your next question?
this is my next question.
In fact, before you move on, Commissioner Suchman, Ms. Moriarty, who has been corresponding with staff on this, actually wants to provide some clarity herself.
Okay.
If you could identify yourself.
Yes. Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. Catherine Moriarty, Counsel on behalf of BG&E. Respectfully, I think the parties are speaking past each other And there is a problem here I don't know what the problem is. OPC recommended metrics to BG&E. BG&E agreed to adopt all of them. We sent these metrics to staff and OPC to let them know these are the metrics OPC proposed. We're going to adopt these. Staff responded, thank you. We agree with those, and we are going to add more. And they highlighted them in the Excel sheet you will get. And we adopted all of those metrics. That was our intention. That's been our motive and collaborative effort from the get-go. I have been communicating with staff saying there is no problem here because we are adopting all of your metrics. All of them. Two were left off. We then had a subsequent email. We agreed to adopt those. We have agreed to adopt all the metrics.
Okay, so if you've agreed to adopt all the metrics, then someone please explain to me why we're having a conversation about what metrics to adopt and what not to adopt.
I do not know. I would actually ask staff if they could identify specifically which metrics we did not adopt.
When we're also still discussing the quarterly versus monthly, which is what we requested, and they still have been waffling on that.
Okay, and that's part of metrics.
The problem is we did not hear from BGE. We sent the metrics. It was radio silence. Then they filed it. We asked to meet. I went to Mr. Gratz's office every day because I was quite surprised that we hadn't heard back from it. Frankly, I was expecting some pushback that they would say, no, these are too erroneous. We want to do the WGL metrics from their case a couple of years ago. But we didn't hear from them, and then they just filed it. And then they made an errata filing where they changed some of the language within their CAP. So we were.
I think staff is misunderstanding the metrics. I really do.
Well, it's actually, so there are two different issues going on at this point. There's the metrics, but there's also process. And there was a lot of conversation and what sounded like collaboration. And then you filed a corrective action plan that kind of took the parties by surprise, which should have been an indication to you that this was an opportunity for all of you to work together to submit a joint CAP.
Understood, Commissioner Suchman. And, maybe there's some lessons learned here, but collaboration with staff and OPC in this instance has been, we propose these metrics, you must accept them. We propose and we did. We propose additional metrics, you must accept them. That has been collaboration in this case.
Okay, I guess I'm hearing different things, and I guess we'll go through. I mean, it's who ate my homework? The dog ate my homework.
Suchman, but I was a former staff attorney and worked here. I like to work with staff. I have no issue with staff. I'm open to being collaborative.
Right. I guess the concern I have is if everybody's agreed to everything, then why are we here?
I do not know. I do not know why we're arguing about metrics when we agreed to them all.
Would you like to?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chairman. So we detailed in our joint filing specific back and forth between BG&E, CAD, and staff. We're happy to provide the commission with the email chain of the back and forth between BG&E, CAD, and staff.
Actually, can you go through the list of what is missing from what the company is proposing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So on January 8th, and I'll try to be brief here. On January 8th, BG&E emailed staff and OPC the proposed metrics. BG&E noted that it intended to file the CAP by January the 20th and requested that staff and OPC respond to BG&E by January the 13th. On January 9th, we emailed BG&E to confirm receipt of their email and let them know that we would be in touch with them early next week. On January 13th, we emailed BG&E, staff emailed BG&E, OPC, and CAD proposed metrics that staff and OPC were in agreement on. On January 20th, and sorry, let me stop there. From that time that we emailed BG&E, OPC, and CAD those proposed metrics, as Mr. McAuliffe has stated, there was radio silence from BG&E. We heard no response back from BG&E prior to their filing their CAP, which included the metrics on January 20th. Then there was the errata filing on the 21st, which, by the way, the initial filing said reporting monthly. The initial filing said reporting monthly, and then the subsequent filing said reporting quarterly. And additionally, the initial email from BG&E stated that BG&E would be reporting the metrics.
Okay,
monthly.
so that's when I can actually start writing this down. So, okay, so they're proposing quarterly, you're proposing monthly. Mr. Michelle, are you okay with monthly?
Absolutely. And,
Okay.
and Commissioner Sutton, the confusion there was, there's two sort of measurements. How often are you tracking the metrics, which is monthly for us, and then how often are we reporting it to you? In the exchange I had with Commissioner Linton, as I mentioned before, we're happy to report it monthly, given that we're tracking it monthly.
Okay, so, and that's going to resolve
That issue,
staff's
yeah.
concern. Okay, so that's the first one. What's the second issue?
The second issue, as it relates to
Well, before you do that, how many issues do you have?
well, sir, I just wanted to follow up on.
I'm not being critical, I'm
no,
just
no.
curious.
No, well, we want the record to be straight.
Okay.
And so I want to be responsive to the questions that Commissioner Linton mentioned and the questions Commissioner Suchman mentioned as it relates to the quote-unquote collaboration or
No,
transparency.
and I
as well as
actually,
the
so
baseline
I think we can all sort of agree that collaboration here kind of fell through the cracks. So can we just go to
Sure.
the substance? So we've got monthly reporting. What's the second issue?
So now that the monthly reporting has been resolved,
Right.
the OPC staff and CAD proposed additional metrics. BG&E then subsequently, after the filing of their CAP, agreed to include those metrics.
Okay, so we're
That
good.
is not
So we're-
true, but just for the record, it was in subsequent to the CAP filing. Or yes, you're right, it was subsequent to the CAP filing. I apologize.
Okay, so we're good on the additional metrics.
Yeah.
So so that's been resolved. Okay, so what's the next issue?
Well, so I just wanted to address Commissioner Linton's line of questioning around baseline metrics, which I think is a very good point, and as the commission raised in their notice to appear for today, there's been conversation around the data requests that staff sent over. And part of their data requests go directly to your point around baseline metrics. As counsel for BG&E just stated, they are tracking all these metrics. They are not necessarily reporting on all the metrics that they're tracking internally. What we have asked specifically is for BG&E to share with the parties all the metrics that they are tracking internally and then subsequently report on those. We know they have them. They are a sophisticated utility who has a call center. They have internal KPIs. They have internal metrics. They have alluded to on multiple occasions that they have lots of metrics. Precisely what we're asking for today and what we've asked for previously is for BG&E to report on those metrics that they already have. That's all.
Okay, and then,
I'm utterly confused now because we just had a exchange where I thought we resolved the dispute about metrics, where we
no, but
agreed.
are there other internal metrics that you could share as part of your reporting?
beyond the ones that we just agreed to. I mean, there's plenty of metrics. I'm not sure what council has in mind specifically that would be relevant to this proceeding. And this goes back to the company's request at the start of my comments that, we don't want this case to become a fishing expedition. As Commissioner Linton mentioned, we agree 100% that this proceeding has a particular goal in mind, is to fix a particular issue. And we just ask that the commission limit the proceeding to that very issue. I mean, I don't understand the mention of any other metrics when we have agreed to provide the metrics that OPC staff and CAD proposed. So the mention of additional metrics or KPIs, I think it's irrelevant to the matter at issue.
Okay, we've got the copies here, so.
Right. Okay, so Mr. McAuliffe, I mean, I guess it's the, we don't know what to ask for because we're not sure what you're collecting. Is that the issue?
So we're here because there is an issue. So frankly, it has to become a fishing expedition because we have to find where the issue is.
Right, 'cause
they
it-
didn't
it-
have
it may
fancy
be-
metrics, we
Well,
wouldn't
let
be
'em-
here.
yeah.
You know, and they're acting like the data request is somehow a punitive measure. Obviously, that took staff a long period of time to put together. You know, we have plenty of other things to do as well, other than put together 185 question data requests.
So I guess so I guess I mean you're asking for stuff that you don't have, and that may actually lead to answers for but unless they know what they need to provide, they're essentially giving you everything they collect, and it may be a little over
I don't
inclusive.
think we're asking for everything they collect. These DRs are very specific. They're not. It's not necessarily a part of the CAP as well. These are just additional questions because the commission asked us to investigate if there was an issue. So that's exactly what we're doing. And frankly, the data is becoming a real problem in my eyes because Mr. Michelle is saying they've met these annual metrics, particularly for COMAR 2050-1208A. So I understand there's a difference between annual and monthly, but CAD asked for the monthly data for the 30-second requirement to answer the phone. And they cited the COMAR language. So BG should be sending the same data for that and their annual report, but in monthly segments. So when you take those monthly averages, you should get pretty darn close to the yearly average. And I can tell you in none of these months did they meet the 75%. So it's mathematically impossible for them to have met the 75 annually. So they're obviously not sending us the same data. So that's very concerning as well.
And will that be data that you will get under the new metrics?
Well, so this one, yeah, we've asked for directly. This one is in the CAP.
Okay. But you're
But
concerned
but
about,
like Mr. Michelle was trying to say, well, these are different data. CAD cited the exact reference to COMAR, so the data they should be sending for that should be the data that shows if they've met that COMAR requirement. I mean, there's no ambiguity there,
okay.
and they clearly didn't meet it for 4 years.
Right, and you're concerned that there's going to be data that's actually going to help you to better identify what's going on that may be missed in the metrics that you're collecting.
Clearly, there's a difference between the 93-53 annual data and what they send CAD. There has to be. So that's a huge problem.
I wonder if there's a way, Mr. Singh, is there a way, so we sort of have the metrics that we're requiring now or will require. Is there a way that you can work with the parties to give them a better sense of what data you're collecting that will give them a better sense of what it is that they're going to be requesting of us? I'm just worried about the over-inclusiveness of it, because it may be that, if we tell you to send us everything you have, I'm not sure that that's going to make a whole lot of sense, and I'm not sure that we're going to be able to police that, and the parties aren't going to be able to.
Commissioner Suchman, we've been an open book, and I'm happy to continue in dialogue to share what we're sharing. And I still think we need to focus on the issue. So, all these metrics about, the time you pick up a phone within 30 seconds, they're important. But I don't want to miss the main point. They all work together to serve the purpose of allowing access to our care center, reducing amount of times that customers are waiting on the phone, and our commitment to hit their schedule when we call them back. These are sub-metrics and they're important. I'm not saying that they're not important, and I'm open to discussing those. But what's most important is the experience of the customer. And the experience of the customer was telling us, I do not want to wait this long. I want access. And when you tell me you're going to call me back, call me back. Those are the important issues. And those are the issues we're focused on. Yes, we focus on a lot of lower level issues as well as metrics, but they're all working together to serve those top issues I just discussed.
No, I appreciate that. Okay, so any other issues any other differences between,
Who are you directing that to?
this is for staff. Any other issues that are there, where there are differences between this joint party position and BGE? Or are we good on metrics?
So to set the record straight, Commissioner Suchman, so to be clear, between the metrics that staff, OPC, and CAD proposed, which were initially all of them not included, BG&E, as I mentioned, subsequently after the filing of their CAP, agreed to include those two additional metrics. We're all in agreement on that. Secondly, as part of our data request that I just mentioned, we were asking for BG&E to share with us, all the parties here, for transparency purposes, in order to establish a proper baseline, the metrics that BG&E is already tracking internally. We're just asking BG&E to report on those monthly, as they currently are tracking those. We're not asking for any additional lift out of the company. They're already tracking them. In terms of the back and forth and looking at the metrics here today, what I would propose is that instead of trying to look at a printout of the metrics that BG&E shared with you today, is to do exactly what we had shared and proposed with BG&E, which was to have an in-person meeting and to go over these metrics and to come into agreement, as you mentioned, Commissioner Suchman, and then to have a subsequent filing with the commission so that the record is straight.
What I seem to be hearing from Mr. Singh is that he's open to that kind of a meeting. Is that correct?
We've been, Chair Barber, we've been having meetings to talk about those issues.
Okay.
And I just want to we have nothing to hide. There's nothing in those lower level metrics that we're talking about here.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think it sounds like you're close to where you need to be, and perhaps you can do this as a joint filing, where there's agreement among the parties. I have actually just one other question to ask on a different matter, and that is, I continue to be concerned about costs and cost to ratepayers. And so this question is for BG. This $4.7 million price tag, is that in addition to what we've already authorized? This is very important, and it's something that needs to be addressed. It just seems that the number is very big, and so if you can give me some clarity on what that means.
Yeah, so the $4.7 million was when the commission asked us to look at the feasibility of running a 24/7 operation outside of emergency calls. Right now, our business office is Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. But in our last meeting on December 17th, in the order that we received, said, hey, please check out, what the cost would be if you were to move to run your business 24/7, 7 days a week for business calls. We're already 24/7 for emergency calls, but not business calls. So that's what that additional cost would be.
Okay, so I can move away from the ledge.
Absolutely.
I'm good. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Hoover.
So the company's made reference a number of times to the 9353 process that we go through, and I've sat through those hearings both up here and out there, and it strikes me that as part of that review process, it looks at both the actions that the companies take on reliability, which mainly refers to hardware and infrastructure and things like that, and then a segment of that is this examination of call response. But it strikes me that within that process, it's fairly routine for this commission to adopt correction action plans for utilities that have problems with the hardware part of the process. And so in that sense, they do get treated differently than the other utilities because they had a specific problem. And I think that's what's driving this thing. And the problem we have with your call center situation is, one, the timing. It really happened at a really particularly bad time because we're in the winter weather situation, and we were concerned about the fact that customers who were maybe trying to talk to you to prevent getting their service terminated, weren't able to do it because nobody picked up the phone. And so that's part of the reason why this order that we issued said, you have to forestall any billing and collection activities until the end of February. And it seems to me that we're not going to be comfortable letting you go back to collection activities in March if we still have this concern about, what sort of data we're getting and when we're getting it, and what it says. So it strikes me that the company has a pretty big incentive to try to come to some agreement that satisfies all the parties sitting at the table as well as us before we give you the green light to, engage in billing and collection activities. And one of the things I'm concerned about is I'm pretty sure we're going to have a repeat of what happened last year, because we've had this similar weather situation. In fact, it's probably been more severe. So we're probably going to have these affordability bill concerns that customers are going to have in March and April when they start getting the bills for the usage that they've done in January and February. And so it's going to be imperative that people be able to talk to you in order to establish payment plans and other things and avoid termination of service. And it looks like, apparently, according to some other experts, the winter weather may be going on for quite some time, so this may be something that drags on into April and May. And so I think we need to have an assurance that, when people want to talk to you about resolving high bills and coming to some arrangement to prevent their service being terminated, that somebody's going to be there to answer those questions. And so these metrics and the questions that staff's asked and OPC's asked is all driving toward coming up with that situation. So I mean, it's not necessarily a question, but just a whole list of concerns that I have, and I think a number of us have on this issue. But the one question I do want to go back to is, and it's a follow-up to Commissioner Sussman's last question about the 24/7 operation. You told us how much it would cost to actually move to that, and you suggested that it may not be actually the best use of money because most of the calls come between 10 and 2. But I know you are set up for a 24/7 operation when somebody calls about either a gas leak or the power's out or things like that. Is there some way to construct the situation that if somebody has a severe billing and collection issue that's not about the power's off or the gas is leaking, that you could somehow set up your system to allow them to talk to somebody? So even though the office isn't open 24/7, there is some avenue for sort of a priority call on this.
Yeah, so I want to respond. Thank you for that, Commissioner. So right now, yes, we're 24/7 for gas and electric emergencies, but if a customer calls us and they have an emergent situation on that issue and it's not a gas or electric emergency, our agents are trained at this present time to handle that customer's request. We have examples where a customer may have been terminated on a Friday and they didn't call us to Saturday. Even though the business office is closed, those agents are trained to be able to take the give the customer an opportunity to make the payment and get their services restored. So that's already in place, as well as on Saturdays, we do have scheduled callbacks where the business office is not open, but a customer scheduled a callback. So those agents are logged in to help with those different business calls where typically they would not be. So we do handle that on a case-by-case basis right now.
Okay, all right, that works for me. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really don't have any questions. I think my colleagues have hit on most of the topics. But one thing's clear, you guys have to meet in person. This trading emails is not working. There's so many. I think you're talking by one another on numerous issues. Mr. Michelle, you said you guys are hitting the mark every year. Mr. McAuliffe's like you guys haven't hit it in 4. You're clearly not working off the same sheet of music, so it's imperative that you guys can talk, figure out what staff and OPC needs, figure out what OP or BG has, and so they can get the right information so we can get to a decision. Mr. Linderbaum?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I did just want to note that the OPC's position is that another meeting is not going to help. It's going to be the same issue in the next meeting and the next meeting and the next meeting of misalignment on different metrics, different definitions for different metrics, and delays until ultimately either this information is never reported or something else is reported that isn't helpful. And specifically in the metrics that BGE has proposed, they would only report on customers who select a callback option for as soon as possible. But OPC staff and CAD want information on customers who also schedule a callback, because that is where customers had a large problem getting in contact with BGE and receiving those scheduled callbacks.
Right.
So OPC's position,
And you've made that request, correct?
yes,
And
yeah.
Commissioner McLean, that's patently false.
Okay.
And here's why, Commissioner McLean, I think this is helpful. One, we don't think there's any basis for OPC to have the level of pessimism that it just articulated. We are happy, as Mr. Singh indicated, we're happy to meet in person. The reason why we hadn't elected to meet in person before was because our position was that we were accepting, one, what OPC had originally recommended to the commission. When staff then subsequently added additional metrics, we didn't think there was any need to further discuss it because we were agreeing to what staff proposed. So the lack of meeting in person up until this point was simply because we thought we were conceding to what they were requesting.
Okay, I get it, but we're here now, and it's clear that you guys are talking past one another, and I'm seeing some nods. Mr. Linderbaum, I don't think anyone wants to delay this any more than we need to, and I'm not saying that you guys should meet next month. You should do it as soon as possible.
I think our position is still,
And I get it.
But the commission wants you to meet, even if you think it may be for naught. We want a meeting because I feel personally, that's the best way to resolve any of these miscommunications. Would you like to comment? Please identify yourself for the. No.
Mr. Chairman, Juliana Bell, Deputy Counsel for the Office of People's Counsel. I heard the chairman's comment just then, and of course, if it sounds like the commission wants us to meet, we'll meet. But I'll just note that you have a filing before you jointly from the joint parties, CAD, staff, and OPC, and all of us agree on the metrics that we've proposed, and BGE has said here today that it agrees with them as well. In addition, staff has sent some data requests that I think the chairman has already made clear can be the subject of the usual procedure in terms of objections, and should the commission need to rule, it will.
Correct.
I think the commission has everything it needs before it, including the agreement of BGE in this proceeding today on the metrics we've submitted, and that the commission is in a position to issue an order, and that staff is in a position to continue its investigation, which the commission has ordered. BGE is successfully here today, tried to turn this into a mediation, which it is not. The commission issued an order, it ordered an investigation, it asked us to submit a filing. The joint parties did that. They are in an agreement. BGE has said it agrees with every metric, and it will respond to the DRs as directed by the commission. So I would invite you to further consider the request that we meet and act like this is a mediation, which it is not. And I appreciate the being heard.
Do you want?
Yeah, if I could just respond, I actually really appreciate that comment, because I don't intend. I would be crestfallen if you met thinking that you can start from scratch. I actually thought the meeting would be helpful to iron out those last bit of details, and because I'm also hearing the company saying that they agree to all of the metrics that the joint parties have proposed. And so and I don't see why the meeting can't happen tomorrow to talk about what last little bits that you think you need clarity on, because it's better to get clarity than for us to see you again in a couple of months because you're getting information from BG that you don't think is responsive to the kinds of metrics that you think we agreed to. So that would be. We don't think that this is a starting from scratch. This is the last little bit of clarity on metrics.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Suchman, and of course, OPC would be happy to meet tomorrow if that is the commission's desire. But I think the commission, in an order, could make it crystal clear what the Commission is ordering BGE, a regulated monopoly utility, to do. And I don't know that meeting again with BGE is going to result in any different kind of interaction than one you've heard here today in response to our requests.
Right.
So I completely, I respect the Commission. We obviously respect the Commission, and we will absolutely meet with BGE again. But I think what you saw and heard today out of BGE is what we will see and hear from BGE at that meeting. And I think we will, I hope, be back here then in short order asking the Commission to move forward with an order that everybody here today has already said that they agree with. And one last thing I want to offer, really do appreciate what the BGE's call center director has said here today about inviting people to, as I understand it, our consumer assistance director has taken a couple tours and chatted with the director. None of those conversations, as I understand it directly from her in a text she sent us as we were sitting here, involved discussion of the metrics. That is what we were asking here for here today, and as I think you thoroughly understand. And using 2025, as Mr. Lindenbaum has said, as a benchmark is not going to cut it.
No, and I can tell you personally that I will be extremely disappointed if we see the parties back here again fighting about metrics. I don't think that's going to do anybody any good. And my sense is that you are like 99% of the way there, and just figure out that last little 1%. But and I'm expecting the company to operate in good faith with the rest of the parties to resolve all of these issues. Because and Mr. Singh, I like what I'm hearing about where you're moving, and that's where the focus needs to be, is to move forward and fix all these issues. As far as I'm concerned, the metrics issue has been resolved, and so it's just about making sure that all the last I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Thank you.
One final comment, and then I'm going to try and conclude this with some thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Before you start, though, please do have a meeting, and I would ask staff to report back to the Commission on what the outcome of that meeting was, so that we're clear on what the path forward is.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Thank you. I just want to state for the record how appreciative we are of Commissioner McLean's comment about the meeting. In essence, it is exactly what we proposed to BG&E in our email to BG&E on January the 23rd as a way to expedite and be more efficient here in terms of coming to a resolution. So thank you. Second of all, as it stands, from what we hear from BG&E, if they have in essence adopted the metrics proposed by the joint parties, then we see no issue why then the Commission should not just adopt the metrics proposed by CAD, by staff, and by OPC, and that could be the end of it. Obviously, we're happy to have a meeting with BG&E. It's exactly what we proposed. It's how we attempted to collaborate and get to the bottom of this. So that may be a quick and easy and efficient way to resolve this issue on the metrics, because as I mentioned at the opening, there's a metric and there's a description of the metric. There was a distinction between the description of the metrics that staff, OPC, and CAD proposed versus what BG&E included in their proposed metrics in their CAP. So if there's an agreement now by BG&E to adopt the metrics that have been proposed by the joint parties, by staff, CAD, and OPC, then that's the end of it. And there will be no dispute as to a question of the description of the metrics or whether a metric has been included or not, because all of everything that we're asking for, which apparently BG&E now has agreed to, and also reporting it monthly as opposed to quarterly, is in what we filed in our joint filing. So in case that's helpful in terms of coming to a resolution, because we agree with the Commission, we need to get this straight as soon as possible.
And Chair Barve, just for the record, I think all parties here are in agreement that if the Commission wants, take the metrics that were filed in the joint filing by CAD, staff, and OPC, and put that in order as the metrics that BGE will report. we're fine with that.
Yeah, the intent with the meeting was just so you guys don't come back in February saying, oh, well, we wanted X and BGE gave us Y. We misunderstood. That's what I'm trying to avoid. I'm not trying to mediate or start from scratch on any of this. I just want to make sure you guys are on the same page as to what you want and what you're providing.
Yeah. And I think Commissioner McLean, just accepting what those parties filed should alleviate that concern.
Okay. Did you?
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay. I think we're all good. Let me conclude this by sharing a few observations and thoughts. We are here to serve the ratepayers of Maryland, and in this particular case, the ratepayers of the Baltimore region, especially. I think we all agree that the failure was unique, extreme, and unacceptable. I'm heartened to see that you are making progress, but let's be clear, this commission is always at liberty to take extraordinary actions when there are extraordinary failures, as there has been in this instance. And so I look forward to you getting together to iron out all these definitional differences. I look forward to our order being carried out, and I look forward to, if you have questions you do not want to answer, file an objection and we will rule on them. But at the end of the day, I do not want to be having this none of us want to be having this conversation in the middle of July when the temperatures outside are 105 degrees and everybody is calling and everybody is complaining. This needs to be resolved before the summer. Well, it needs to be resolved well before the summer months, but it needs to be resolved because this is not a state of affairs that anyone in our state should have to live with for too much longer. So with that, this proceeding, this is concluded. We're adjourned, and I think we're going to start our next issue. What is that clock accurate? Oh, what do you know? It is accurate. It's a new clock. Okay, so let's come back at 12:35. That's 45 minutes. See you at 12.